That's good. Hey, everybody is joining.
You're muted, John.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of an echo here. Sorry. But yeah, just to let everybody know while we're waiting here, because we have a vote later on in the meeting. Can you go on mute or turn the volume down?
Yeah. Try that.
Yeah, and if you go on mute as well. Okay, we'll try that again. So we're in the same room here, but
Is that better?
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. So yeah, while we're waiting, because we have the vote later on, everybody can rename themselves in the participants tab. And so for credentialing, we'll all credential each other. So if you're here, representing your club, and you're the voting member for your club for today, just put a little asterisk in front of your name. And then if you like, after your name, put a hyphen and then the name of your club. And then that way we can all just check that there should be one vote per club. The rules is that there is no proxy voting. So you can't, some people emailed me today and asked me to vote for a particular candidate, but I can't do that. But any member of the club could be here to represent the club. And a couple of presidents did email me today. I think Ryan Darcy, hey, the other Ryan Trabucco emailed and said, because Ryan Trabucco, the example on the screen, is representing Claremont, but then Ryan Darcy will represent Dems for Equality. So that way, if you just put a little hyphen afterwards, we'll see in the participants tab, everybody that's here. I think that's the easy way to do it. We can decide later on if it's not good, but I think that
won't let me say my name and my club. Well, I mean, it does, but it doesn't show.
Yeah, sorry, Tom, you got, I see your name and your club, yeah?
Okay.
You can drag that participants tab a little wider. You can drag it as wide. Well, on my screen, I can drag it wider and I can see.
So it's just my screen, right?
Yeah.
John, I'm not sure. I'm here as on the club development committee, not for a club. Do I get to vote? Not sure.
No, it's just
Okay,
one vote per
that's what I
club.
thought.
One vote
Right.
per club, yeah.
That's fine. I just wanted to verify that.
Yep.
And John, this is Angela Hawkins.
Hey, Angela.
Am I for Point Loma then?
Yes. Yeah, unless Marin is joining, yeah, you would be here representing Point Loma. So that's great. So yeah, it's just 10 o'clock and we got a fairly full agenda. So we'll jump in. I will attempt to pull up here. Here we go. I'll pull up and share this screen. But everybody today should have got a link. Well, most everybody today should have got a link with a link to this Lucid meeting tool that I use for a bunch of different things. But in the Lucid meeting tool, you can also follow along separately from the Lucid meeting link, if you like, that's separate, that anybody when they join can see where we are in the agenda. You can go back and forward in the agenda yourself, right? And then you can look at the notes later. So it's just a nice little tool for kind of keeping all that stuff together for people. So with that then, as I said, we mentioned the self-credentialing, and we'll cover that later as well. So just because people are joining, I'm just letting them in from the waiting room. So as they join, they'll be able to do the self-credentialing. And by the time we get to that bit of the meeting, the agenda, which is why I put it later, everybody should be credentialed correctly. If that makes sense. And then if I jump to this next screen, we can see the first item we have on here is to propose the agenda, and everybody's saying, but what is the agenda? So it should be the same one that everybody got in their email inviting you to the meeting. And I can also put a link to that. So everybody got this email probably, hopefully with a picture of the butterfly, and then the agenda items that are on here. So that the high level is the kind of basic stuff we're doing today. I'll just paste that in the link to everybody. And then I can also put more details on the specific agenda if I jump back here. So the idea is, yeah, we'll get ready here with the introductions. We'll do a little bit of celebration on the results of the elections. Ryan Hurd shared with me, he couldn't make it today, but he shared with me the slide deck that he used at the Central Committee meeting on Tuesday. That'll talk for a little bit about the elections. And then as part of that, we'll also celebrate all the candidates that ran, whether they won, they lost, or they don't yet know if they've won, because it's too close to call. And we'll do a little kind of a virtual mind meld to make sure that all those results come out correctly. Then we'll talk about the biennial reorganization that comes up in January. Long timers for the party will know exactly what this is all about, but new members for the party will say, what? How do we do this again? And when do we do it? And how does it happen? So we'll just talk through that a little bit, especially because pretty much all the clubs, it was great. Thank you so much. Everybody got their chartering information back in on time to Morale and Andrea in the office. And so pretty much everybody gets to take part in the meetings in January. So we'll cover off on that. We'll also do a kind of little publicity bit for the Club Development Committee, because those members will get elected in January. We'll talk about the Council of Clubs, the idea that you'll be able to think between now and January of all the ways you'd like to change these meetings and email them in to the Director of Clubs. And then between now and January, they'll have time to kind of sort through those ideas and think about how to run these meetings going forward. And then we will cover off just for a minute or two, talk about Zoom links. We're encouraging everybody to have a recurring Zoom meeting going forward. So the link every month stays the same. And then we can put that link in the party calendar. And that way it's easy for people to join. And then the party calendar, we've also, if you have a Gmail address of any shape or flavor, we can invite that Gmail address to edit the calendar. So you can always keep your entries up to date. And then we'll have a short presentation. Well, we'll talk about a presentation. Kelly King from the Club Development Committee has put together a really good presentation on how clubs can assess the needs of their members and ways to think about, do a needs assessment effectively. But what we'll do this morning, because we've got such a full agenda, we won't go through the presentation. Instead, we've shared the link to this presentation slides so that everybody can download them and use them at your own club if you want to. And Kelly will talk for a shorter period of time just about the idea, what the idea is and how you go about it. And then if people have questions offline, they can contact Kelly to help with that, and also just download the slides and adapt and modify the slides for the needs of your own club. And so then we'll also cover off on the ADEMs. That's the elections that are coming up in January. And there's a couple of changes, just a few because of the pandemic. And so we've got both Michelle Krug will join us and Mike Thallis here as well. Thank you, Mike, for your email this morning. There's a beautiful flow diagram in it that'll explain how that process is going to work, because it's all going to be vote by mail. And there'll be telephone support for people to get ballots to people, or you can get them online. All the electioneering, if you like, will be done online, and we'll cover off on that. And then we'll do the election of the Director of Clubs at the end. So with that, and using my fancy, tool here, we can say, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? If anybody would like to make a motion.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Susan. And then is there anybody else who wants a second?
I second Phil Courier.
That's great. Thanks, Phil. And of course, as we all know, people who take minute notes, you don't have to record a second. But I will anyway, simply because I can show how fancy the tool is. And then, is there anybody who objects, any objections to the agenda? And the one thing I'll ask for forbearance is I might shorten up certain things or maybe skip over them really quickly and put them in the notes afterwards if we're crunched for time. But we will try and cover everything off. So hearing no objections, and that's why the mute button is a wonderful thing. Yeah, we can just record this vote as passing unanimously, and then we're done. So with that, then we'll go on to the small bit on the celebration. And I'm just letting more people into the meeting here. And also, I think I noticed, yeah. So Will Rodriguez Kennedy joined the meeting, chair of the party, and will by all means jump in here and take over or stop me on this bit. I got the slides from Ryan, and what I was going to say was, rather than go through all of them, let's see. Well, yeah. Well, first of all, check with you. Do we want to share all the slides as they are? The slide deck that Ryan used on when was it? Tuesday night, and/or I thought we'd just cover off on the local elections, if that makes sense. I think, Will, I don't know if you're on mute. No, maybe. Everyone's going, what the hell is he doing on that screen? What I am doing is looking for where I put Ryan's slides. But I know I had him here a minute ago. Before the meeting, I had him. But, let me just stop this share, because then I'm just letting more people in. So yeah, Will, are you there? Are you on mute? Oh, okay.
He's leaving it up to you.
Yeah, no, yes, okay, yeah. So I just got to find where I put them. I know, I got my email and open them from there because he did email them to me. So yeah, in fact, while I'm just looking for these slides, what we should do also is, if I could ask everybody who would like to have maybe a minute to talk, if there are any candidates or people who ran for office who would like to talk to all the members here today and say anything to them, would you like to raise your hand in the participants tab? There's nobody here who wants to talk?
Hang on, I don't.
Okay, that's very unusual for this meeting to have people who don't want to talk, but that's okay. We've got a couple of hands. Excellent. So Doug, if you'd like to kick us off, and thank you, Doug, for your email, by the way. That was very amusing. I like that. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and go first.
Yes. Thank you. And my email was to suggest that we have a vote to decide whether we're going to allow John to not continue as the director of clubs. He's been a wonderful director of clubs, and thank you for all you've done, John. I think most of you know that I represent Senate President Pro Tem Toni Atkins, and she was a candidate this year, and she won by 2/3 of the vote, and probably nobody on this call can name who her opponent was. But most of her effort was spent helping other candidates, including Tara Lawson-Remer and Todd Gloria, but also statewide. We were successful in getting 2 new Democrats, or a total of 2 to our total of Democrats in the state. Both of those in Orange County, Senator-elect Josh Newman, who will be returning, and David Min. And so that'll bring us to 31 senators in the state Senate, which would be the most number of Democrats that we've had in the state Senate since 1883. On the legislative side, you may have seen it in the paper this past week, the legislative analyst has indicated that the budget projections regarding COVID were a little bit too conservative, and we will end up with a kind of a windfall $26 billion this year. But future years, are going to have deficits, and so we need to put some of that money aside in reserves. But the legislature hopes to be able to use that money to reverse some of the trigger cuts that were put in place, but that were going to be reversed if we got the federal funds, which never arrived. And so hopefully this money will help us to reverse some of the Prop 98 deferrals, the cuts to higher education, and the compensation for state employees, to also eliminate some of the scheduled cuts to programs dealing with healthcare, aging, and developmental ability programs, to assist local governments who are hurting because of the pandemic, especially those like San Diego who rely heavily on tourism and hotel occupancy taxes, to repay some of the borrowing and to return some of the money to reserves so that we'll have it when we need it. And then to make some targeted new investments to meet the current challenges, including the COVID-19 health crisis, the Californians experiencing homelessness, and emergency preparedness. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you. And then next up we have Tom. I have found the slides, by the way, but yeah, Tom, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to celebrate that back in 2018, we had elected 7 of our endorsed club members to local offices. And this year we wondered how we were going to beat that. Well, we did. We got 8 of our members endorsed by the county and they all won. And the interesting thing is that of the 8 people that we elected these past couple of months, 4 of them are under the age of 30. And we couldn't have done it without the county party's help. Thank you very much.
That's excellent, Tom. Thank you so much. And then next up we have Greg.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but then I felt guilty about not doing it. So I do want to expect thanks to everybody. I'm Greg Robinson. I'm president of Labor Dems, but I was also elected to the County Board of Education, which sounds like an obscure post. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, but you're still there. You crackled, but you're still there.
Oh, okay. At any rate, it's a fairly obscure post, but it's a really strategic one in the whole struggle around the privatization of public education. I'm very encouraged by the number of progressives who have been elected to school boards. And as Doug really ably described just a few seconds ago, yeah, there's a little bit of good news coming out of the LAO, but it's also the bad news in the sense that the reason why we've got a little more money is because the rich have gotten richer and the poor have gotten poorer under these circumstances of this horrible virus. And the need for that money, particularly education, has only exploded, as we should all be well aware. And I hope those of us who have been recently elected to school boards that we will get together, talk and strategize about how to respond to this in a progressive and a democratically party supported manner, because it's so important for our kids. These are really hard time for education. So thanks again for everybody. And I wasn't going to say anything, but then I felt guilty. Thanks.
That's good. Thank you, Greg. And guilt is a wonderful thing. And some, let's see, we have Scott.
That's my way of life, John. So thanks.
Yeah. Scott, if you want to go next.
Okay. Hey, good morning. Thank you, John. I just wanted to thank everybody that came out for our Veterans Day celebration. We held 2 events virtually. We held first, kind of kicking off the day, we had a virtual 5K. That was a good success. I'd like to invite and kind of plant the seed. We're going to do the same thing for Memorial Day. We'll have a virtual 5K. Yet participants get a cool Democratic Club medal. I don't have the prototype here yet, but they're coming in, so that'll be a hot item for that event. And then we had another Zoom meeting later that evening. We had Congressman Levin come by, talk to us. Senator Tony Atkins came by and talked. So again, thank you for all those that came.
No, that's great. Thank you, Scott. And let's see, we got Michelle Krug. Yep.
Hi, Scott, I do want to thank you for the Veterans Club putting that on for the community. I really appreciated that. The California Democratic Party did something like at 10 o'clock and I was able to get to all of it. So thank you. I'm speaking on behalf actually of Raul Campillo, who is, was our endorsed candidate and now is councilperson elect for City Council District 7 of San Diego. And he just wants to send his greetings. He's obviously heavily engaged in getting a staff and getting things ready for December 10th. I've actually asked if the county party is able to send out a schedule of when our people are going to be installed. But I know that one is December 10th. And anyway, just thank you from Raul. He really is humbled and honored to have gotten through his very first election and it being successful. Thanks.
That's good. Thank you, Michelle, for doing that. And Michelle, also, if you can pass on to Ryan just to remind him, give him some details as to what happened at the Central Committee meeting on Tuesday, just in case he missed it. That would be great. And then we have Richard Ram next.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Richard Ram, VP with San Diego County Democrats for Environmental Action. We, had a pretty tremendous election. A lot of our endorsed candidates did win for office, so we're celebrating that. We're just coming off our meeting this past Wednesday, where we hosted a panel of some of our newly elected officials. We had Joe LaCava, who will be representing District 1 in San Diego, Teresa Costa going to City Council in Carlsbad, Marcus Bush, City Council in National City, and we had Jack Hsu going to City Council in La Mesa. So, we discussed issues such as climate action plans, local transportation, habitat protection, and so on. So that was a very successful meeting. Now, we did plan, and we put this out there, some of you may have planned to join us tomorrow for a club victory hike at Mission Trails Regional Park. We've decided to cancel that hike based on the public health warnings that are out there. So we just asked everyone to stay safe, and hopefully we'll be able to regroup and do some outings in the future, but we've decided not to do that for tomorrow.
That's great. Thanks, Richard. That's probably very sensible, I think, given everything that's going on. And then Becca, you're next.
Hi, guys. So Metro West area vice chair over here, but I'm here to announce that for the next resolution meeting is going to be November 29th. That's a Sunday at 7 p.m. So hope to see y'all there.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, Becca. Just to say, this was meant to be more celebratory and not announcements. We'll do all the formal announcements
sorry.
at the end. No problem.
Also,
Yes.
I'm so excited, Roll. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a super duper majority on the San Diego City Council. I would love to brag out everybody. Flip the county supervisors. Pretty much most of the seats we endorsed in one. So, yep.
That's great. That's more like it. Yes, exactly. And then we got Linda, you next.
Hi, I'm president of Democratic Club of Carlsbad Oceanside, and we had 5 candidates for our local city council that were endorsed by DEMCO and also by the county party. In Carlsbad, Teresa Acosta, first time representing the District 4, the very southern part of Carlsbad. And she's a great asset, as Richard Ram just said. And Lila Panagidis, she was up against a longtime, highly liked incumbent. And so she made a very good run, but she didn't quite make it. And then in Oceanside, for the first time ever in the history of the city of Oceanside, we've elected a Latina as mayor. And Esther Sanchez won. She received almost twice as many votes as the next highest vote getter. So it was in a race of 12 candidates. She got about 30% of the vote, which was exceedingly great. So we're planning on a celebration, the best we can do under COVID restrictions, but it's a big deal. And then our 2 city council candidates, Sherry Mackin for District 3 and Jane Marshall for District 4, unfortunately didn't make it. We had a situation develop, which I think is something the party needs to look into and we need to address. And that's that we had multiple Democrats running against one Republican. And, that's kind of a setup for failure. So we want to try to avoid that situation in the future because there were more Democratic votes than Republican votes in both races. So if we hadn't had that multi-dem situation, we probably would have won. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Linda. Yeah, that's something, yeah, we definitely need to think about as more and more of these races are going to fall that way. And there's no easy answers, but that's what the council is here to work on and think about how we address that at the club and at the party level. So yeah, next, Indro, if you want to go next.
Yeah, totally. So want to congratulate all the winning candidates in the call. Amazing races. Really celebrate the Democratic supermajority, or the Justice League majority, or whatever you want to call it, on in our city council, and the majority we have in the board of supervisors. For API Dems, we had a lot of our endorsed candidates win. We were the first API mayor, if I'm not mistaken, in San Diego. And lastly, the club's working on getting a couple of things going for 2021. The last thing is I want to take this opportunity that we are in a pandemic. There are a lot of things going on with it. One of the things is a lot of racial slurs going on towards the Chinese American community, the Asian American community, things in terms like China virus, that sort of thing. So if you do hear someone use those phrases, please speak out on behalf of that our AAPI community to you. We would just really appreciate that. The Democratic Party's been amazing at it. But yeah, thank you for a few minutes.
No, that's great. Thanks, Indro. And that, yeah, that's a very important point, to always speak up and show support in the moment. So yes, the slides then, what I'm going to do here, Will didn't text me back or chat me back. So what I'll do is ask for forgiveness rather than for permission, and share the slides, right? So that there's a link in the chat there for these wonderful slides that Ryan put together, and they'll be in the minutes of the meeting as well. And rather than take time here to go through them, these are things you can reuse at the clubs, obviously, but he's put stuff together both at the national level. Obviously, we know the presidential count. There might be somebody in Washington, D.C. who doesn't know it, but the rest of the planet does. There's stuff at the state level and the different measures and propositions. And then at the local party, there's lots of good information here as well. So people at the Central Committee probably saw some of this already. If you didn't, there is lots to celebrate. And then, as I say, at the last minute then, here in this section, I'll ask Sam Hurst if she'd like to take just a minute to tell us what she's going on and how she's going to enjoy life up until Thanksgiving Eve. Sam.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Good morning. I think we're still there. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for your continued interest in my Santee City Council District 4 race. It has been a nail biter. I need to go on to another body part because I think I've already destroyed that one. But I am about 7 votes down. It's really been quite close. One day there was even a tie. And so it's exciting, but it's unnerving. And just for the sake of all of us, I'm looking forward to a successful end and a win. I'm very hopeful, but I do want to thank everyone for so many text messages and good wishes to hang in there and keep the faith. And it's been really, really, really supportive. So I do appreciate that you're holding good thoughts for the race. I do hope that I can prove them to be true. And we've still got 847 more votes to go. So right now, there's still a lot of hope.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. And then, yeah, Scott, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, just a quick question for Sam. Is there anything we can do? Is there anything you need help from the clubs? Anything we can do? I don't know if there's going to be a vote cure process or anything like that.
Thank you for the question. We are currently involved in doing that right now. One of the difficulties has been that the way in which we've gotten access to a list appears to be for all of Santee itself, not broken down by precinct. And so an original list we did get looked very promising, approximately 45 people on it, but it turned out that only 12 of those individuals happened to be in my district. And about 7 of them happened to be NPPs. So we're in the process of calling, trying to track them down. Some have already put their ballots in. They did receive the affidavit and they've been proactive about it. but we're also now trying to figure out, are there more? How old was the list? And is there access to more people? And are there any more people in D4? So great question. And I appreciate your interest in that question.
That's good. Okay, thank you. With that, I'll share my screen again. And just a reminder for people who have joined a little later, we're asking everybody to self-credential, and then we'll do a kind of group check here. So in the participants tab, you should be able to find an option next to your name that when you click on it, it may say more, and when you click on more, there's then an option to rename yourself. And what we're asking everybody to do is, if you're here representing your club and you want to vote later, put a little asterisk at the beginning of your name, and then after your name, put a hyphen and the name of your club. And that way, later on the agenda, when we get to the voting, it'll be easier, because every club gets a vote, but there's just one vote per club. So you can't bring 20 of your club members and have them all vote. That wouldn't be in the spirit of it. But just, yeah, one vote per club, and no proxy voting. So we need people to turn up today. So if you know there are people missing and there are clubs that are not represented, you can always text them and say, hey, you should jump on this really exciting meeting where you learn all about the minutiae of what's going to happen at the biennial reorganization that's coming up in January. That'll sell it to them. So every 2 years, the party does a reorg, right? So basically people, the general idea that people shouldn't stay in these positions for forever, right? We should cycle people through and get new people a chance to promote them and pull them up the party, and indoctrinate them in the strange and mysterious ways of American political party life. So the biennial reorganization happens in January, and there's lots of details in the policies and procedures document. And if you're not sure where to get that, you go to sddemocrats.org/policies, and it'll pull up a document. And sadly, because I did check this morning, it'll pull up an out-of-date document, because it'll pull a document up that says it was changed in October of 2019. But the word change was actually made in July of this year. And I have let the Director of Admin know, and she'll work with staff to make sure that the latest ones are updated. And again, in the December meeting that the Central Committee is holding this year, there may be further bylaw and policy changes made and voted on by the committee. And again, when that happens, that document will get updated. So the idea is, if you ever want the latest version of the document, just go to that link. The link always stays the same, but the document will be updated over time. And the exciting bit then is in January, on the first Tuesday in January, is all the area meetings, the 4 areas, as they are currently. There are 4 areas, just one area in the north, east, metro, west, and south. They all meet at the same time, and they do a couple of things. One, they celebrate, obviously, all the good stuff that's going on. But 2, they will elect the vice chairs for the area, right? And they will elect the secretary for the area. And then they will also elect the members of the standing committees that have a process whereby members on the committee are drawn from the areas. And there are various standing committees, but the only one I'll talk to today in a little bit here in the next section is we'll talk about the Club Development Committee, because obviously that's the most important standing committee. The others are all kind of, useful, but not as important as the Club Development Committee. So those elections then happen on the first Tuesday, excuse me, and then on the second Tuesday is when the Central Committee gets together for its big reorganization meeting, and that's the meeting at which all the clubs will be rechartered. So whether you sent the paperwork in before November the 15th, or there was only 4 clubs that were a little late on it, as long as they get everything in 14 days before that meeting, so as long as they get them in by the 7th of January, the clubs can all be rechartered. But that first Tuesday, it's only the clubs that rechartered and got the paperwork in by November the 15th this year. Those are the ones whose associate members can vote and take part in the area meeting. So as I say, if you missed that deadline and didn't get stuff in, your associate can't vote at the area. But it was like the vast majority, 93% or something of clubs got all that done. So pretty much everybody can vote at the area meeting on the Tuesday, the 5th. And so then on the 12th, yeah, that's when the ratification will occur of the vice chairs that were nominated, if you like, from the areas, and also the ratification of the director of Go Team, the director of clubs. And also at that meeting, that's when the nomination committee will report back on who they nominate for the positions of secretary, controller, and director of admin. And then again, the central committee will vote on those positions at that time. So does that all make perfect sense? I mean, a lot of people are very familiar with this, but if you're not, and you're new club associate member, the first meeting of the year then will be that first Tuesday. And you'll get notice and everything from the party for that. And you'll be able to turn up and, as I say, vote to nominate who you want to be your vice chair for the area, who you want to be the secretary for your area meetings, and who you want to be on the various committees. So any questions, or it's all good? Excellent, that's good. You can see at the top on this dandy tool then I can catch up some time here. I was falling behind on the other one, but now we're more caught up to date on the development committee. So the development committee then is made up of a member from each area. So that's 4 members. And then the council of clubs will itself elect 2 what we call at-large members. So the committee is actually made up of 6 members plus the director of clubs who chairs the meeting. And so I'm going to embarrass or invite on here. We made out the close of the second year. We did lose a couple of people along the way. We had Katie Meyer moved out of the area, and Amy Cruz was crazy busy with lots of other stuff going on. So we did have a couple of members drop off. And because it was later in the year, the areas said, well, you know, we'll wait till January to renominate them rather than pick somebody now because there's only 1 meeting left and that kind of thing. So I've got on the call here, I shall embarrass them by spotlighting them on the call. We got Sam Hurst. And we should also have Susan and Sue Alderson. I'll ask them to turn on their videos. I got 2 Susan Penados. I'll ask this one to turn on. Oh, it is turned on. There you go. I'll spotlight you. Excellent. That's good. And we got Kelly King. And then we'll try Sue again. Yeah, perfect. So these are your current members of your current club development committee. And I'll let them talk for a minute or something. Yeah. Sorry, just a second. You go on mute, Susan, just while I'm talking.
I think I'm unmuted.
No, you're not.
What
Anyway,
is
so
that?
I'll talk, there'll be a slide echo.
She's unmuted, but you have to mute one of the 2 microphones so that there's no echo.
That would be John's,
Yeah.
if you want me to speak.
Okay, yeah, I'll just stop talking and I'll let these guys talk for a minute about how much they enjoy being on the club development committee, all the wonderful things we get up to, and how it could be much improved going forward. But they only get like a few minutes, so I'll start off on my screen. We'll go to Sam first, Susan, Kelly, and Sue. So Sam, you're up.
Okay. This was one of the best experiences that I have had working within the Democratic Party altogether. There was something about our particular member group that became very close. It became a really safe space for us to speak our mind, to discuss issues that perhaps we might have some opposing views on. We were there to educate each other. We were there to support each other. I found it to be really probably the most informative experience I could have had in learning more about club development. Even though I had been a club president, I felt like all the tumblers were sort of falling into place by the work that I got to do on the committee, because I understood so much more. And I just want to commend every one of the members, and which includes John too, because it is really delightful when you get to work with professionals. And that's what this group is all about. And I'm going to miss you guys. And if I keep going, I'm so overtired, I'm probably going to start crying. But thank you to each of you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. John always is very professional. So I enjoyed working with each one of you. Yeah. But I hear an echo, so I'm going to quit.
So Kelly, you're next.
Oh, yes, it's really a joy working at the Council of Clubs. I know all of us have issues that we really care about, but to me, the biggest, most important issue is community and voter participation. And that's what happens at the Council of Clubs. It's really important to democracy and to making what we do worthwhile. Thanks.
Sue, and you don't have to do all this gushy stuff. You can tell them what it's really like.
You have to meet once a month, and it makes it worthwhile because we like who we meet with. I'll echo what Susan and Kelly and Sam said. The other things to figure out is kind of like Kelly's presentation today came from from the club community. You like or you want to change to make your clubs, particularly in the next 2 years when we don't have elections, more effective or meet the needs of your community, or if you're an Infinity Club, the Infinity community. So it's a great experience, and it was really nice to just know I was going to be sitting down, even if I didn't agree with everybody philosophically, I was on the same page in terms of Democrat turnout. Every vote counts, Sam, correct? What do we need to do to get kids registered to vote? How do we get so on that front, just to walk into that space was just refreshing. And thank you, John, for your leadership. And thank you to my other co-members. It's been a wonderful experience.
Good. No, thank you, everyone. And more importantly, from me to everybody who served on the committee, thank you for putting up with me, for doing agendas at the last minute, for not being as organized as I should be, and bringing you lots of complaints and trouble, but also bringing you some, and drawing from you lots of good suggestions that we have brought to these meetings and then shared back to everybody. And again, for everybody on the call, if you have ideas and things you want to change, the clubs, often bringing it to Club Development Committee first is a good kind of sounding board to kind of get feedback and everything before bringing it before this group or sharing it with other presidents. And so, yeah, I think, as I say, it's an underrated committee, maybe. It does lots of good work. It also deals with complaints and issues that people surprisingly have about clubs, but normally those only happen around the time of endorsements. And the rest of the year, there's not that much really that goes on that level. So don't let any stories about that, don't let those put you off. So yeah, so we want everybody to encourage thinking of who you want to have from your area, represent your area on the Club Development Committee. And as I say, those elections or nominations or recommendations will get made at the first area meeting in January. Okay, so with that, I will go to the next agenda item, which I can see on my screen, and everybody following along on Lucid meetings can. But if you don't have the Lucid meetings open, we get to the next agenda item. I'll just show it here briefly, is the Council of Clubs meetings. And so this really is to say, a lot of you suffer through these meetings probably and go, thank goodness it's on Zoom, and I didn't have to drive for an hour across the county to sit in a large room listening to these people talk to each other, right? And some of you, maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's a different reaction. But either way, if these meetings aren't giving you what you want and what your club wants, and there are things that you've got questions and you're not getting answers to, obviously you want to change the format of the meeting. When I took over the role, we changed away from Ruth Rollins, who was my predecessor. We changed our role of turning them more into kind of workshops. We'd just pick one subject for the meeting, have a main speaker talk on that primarily, and record it on the video. And so a really good example, just recently, Doug Case gave a talk on the Robert's Rules of Order. And then we've captured that on the video. It's up online. People can go back to it if they have questions about Robert's Rules or want a simple introduction, covering off on the main issues. It's a resource. And that's what we try to help drive through the different meetings, was just that kind of ability to have that as a resource. But obviously we can change the format. And my suggestion or recommendation is that think about what you like or you don't like, and then alter these by sending an email to clubs@sddemocrats.org before the new year kicks off, because this is the last meeting of the year. There is no meeting in December. So the first meeting, which we should think about as well, the first meeting normally is in January, the third Saturday in January. But this upcoming January, the California Democratic Party has scheduled that day, the 16th of January, for their e-board meeting, where they need to meet and vote and change some bylaws to do with the ADEMs and things. But so we may want to change that, but either way, email clubs@sddemocrats.org with all your suggestions and ideas. And that email address goes to a couple of people. It goes to Morale and Andrea in the office, the staff who work with the clubs, and it goes to the director of clubs. So all three of them get a copy as soon as you send it there. And then obviously you can engage them and they can build up, knowledge of what things you want to get changed. And while I think of it, is for that meeting in January, the last several years, the Council of Clubs has cancelled its January meeting because the Women's March was always on that weekend as well. And most of the members wanted to participate in that march. And so I'm imagining the same thing will happen again this coming January, in which case the first meeting of the year will be in February. And obviously not for me to decide going forward, that'll be the new director, but I'm assuming, unless anybody has an objection, that following some rule like that will be fine, right? So there's no hands raised. We won't worry about changing that, and we'll leave it in the safe hands of somebody moving forward. Okay, so the next agenda item then is just to cover off on the Zoom link for clubs. I'll stop sharing here just for a minute. Is to say, when you came to this today for the Council of Clubs, the link you used is the same one that we've been using all year. And so in Zoom itself, for people on the line who are familiar with Zoom and how you set it up, is that basically in Zoom you can set up a recurring meeting. And it just basically schedules multiple instances at the same date and time every month, or the third Saturday of the month, or whatever you have for your club meeting. But you can change individual meetings. If something happens and you need to move a meeting, you just go into Zoom and edit it and change that instance of the meeting. But the great thing is the link and everything stays the same. And similarly, if you want people to register for a meeting before they get to the meeting, you can still set up a recurring meeting with a registrant link. And again, that way, everybody who registered, if you registered for this meeting back in March, when we first started doing these online COVID-19 meetings, that same link is the same one you would have used this morning. Nothing changes. So the great advantage with that is you can put that one link in the party calendar, and then it's the same throughout the year. And anybody, new members or prospective members or existing members who can't remember, can always just go to the party calendar, click on the link and get into the meeting. And for Michelle, I see Michelle has a hand raised. Sorry, just a second, Michelle. For Michelle, it makes it much easier as well, because she's not constantly having to contact clubs and get the information. It's always the same link all the time. And so again, for people, for accessibility issues, it's a lot easier if we can make it a constant link. Sorry, Michelle, yeah, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, John. Yes, I say be kind to blind people. I actually had my hand raised initially when you were talking about the third Saturday of January. And I just wondered if people, I mean, is it appropriate that this group today could look at that? Because I know that there are 5 Saturdays in January, and maybe just deciding as a group that that we wanted it to be moved in January so it didn't conflict with either the California Democratic Party or the Women's March, if however they're going to wind up doing that. They're going to do something, and whether it's by Zoom or not. So that's why I had my hand raised, was to ask that question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question. I know before when we talked about moving, or for various events that occurred during the year, because sometimes Pride as well fell on the 3rd Saturday and that kind of thing. But back then, at least, a vast majority of the club members said, no, stick with what's in the rules, because the policies and things specify the 3rd Saturday of the month, but you can change it, as you say, by giving notice. But most people said, nah, stick with the same one, because people had other commitments on the other days, and they'd rather skip a meeting than change it for a month.
But that's why I said the 5th Saturday might not be a conflict in this case.
No, absolutely. We can do a quick show of hands. We can just to get a sense of the room or whatever. If everybody thinks it's a good idea to schedule the Council of Clubs meeting for the 5th Saturday in January, so that if there is a conflict either with the e-board meeting that's coming up or with the Women's March, it won't be an MLK weekend is the 3rd Saturday that Kevin mentioned in the chat as well. So rather than have all those things occurring on the 3rd Saturday, so by a show of hands, does everybody think we should move it to the, well, actually, rather than a show of hands, well, yeah, let's go with the show of hands. Show of hands, how many people would like to move it to the 5th? Okay, that's good. And then while keeping those hands raised, anybody who thinks it's a bad idea and we should just skip it and move to February, they could click the no button. Excellent. So by my reckoning, the vast majority of people thinks we should move it to the 5th Saturday. So we will do that. I will later confer, well, we'll confer and send out a notice, because all we need is a notice to go out to move that meeting. So I will do that. Thank you, Michelle, for raising that. And thank you, everybody, for that quick voting. I'll clear all that down. Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, so related to that then, let's see. Related, we have the next item on the agenda is to do with the party calendar itself. So the party calendar, which everybody's aware they can get to by sddemocrats.org/calendar, has a link in there for clubs for when your meeting is. And everybody's probably aware that everybody forgets to change it when they have a meeting. So they change the meeting, they email the members, they change the date, they change the time, they may cancel the meeting altogether, but not everybody remembers to then update the calendar or tell staff to update the calendar, because it's just one other thing to do and it's easy to forget. So what we have done is a Google Calendar that's powering that thing behind the scenes. So what we've done is we asked everybody if they have a Gmail account, and you can make a free Gmail account just specially for it if you like, is share that with us, and then we'll invite that Gmail account to be able to edit the calendar. So what happens is you can go in, it's a recurring meeting set up by whatever you put in the chartering form as to when your meeting occurs. And you can go in there and edit an instance. So if in 1 month you cancel the meeting or you move the date or time, or you just want to go in and edit the meeting to put in what the topic is or the speakers that are occurring, or edit it and put the full agenda in there, you can go in and edit that instance of the meeting. But of course, if you delete the meeting accidentally, then yeah, it's gone. And then what you need to do is contact staff and ask them politely to please put your meeting back on the calendar. And they will, the first time, do it very happily. And when you do it 2 or 3 times, they'll get grumpy. But by then you'll have figured out not to do that again is the idea. But yeah, normally you can just go in, edit the instance, and it'll ask you after you click save, it'll say, do you want to edit just this one instance, or do you want to edit all future occurrences of this meeting? And you have a choice. So you can just pick the one, or you can say, yeah, I'm changing the meeting date and venue all the time. So yeah, any questions on that? I see a couple of hands raised. So Michelle, if you want to go first. I will ask to unmute you.
Sorry, I thought I had done that. Thank you. I have heard that if you miss a meeting a month, that the on Zoom, that it will disappear. I've heard that from a couple of people, so maybe they can chime in on it. But what is your understanding of that, John? So if they decide, for example, not to have the meeting, does that link still stay constant? Because obviously you can trick it by just going ahead and opening up the meeting, even if nobody's coming, and then close it down or something like that. But what is your experience?
Yeah, no, it's no problem. Yeah, you can delete a meeting in the series. What Zoom does, similar to the Google Calendar, is it'll create a string of meetings, and then you can go in and edit any particular one. And again, you can cancel just the one or cancel the whole occurrence of the meeting. It gives you the choice. So yeah, there's no problem to delete. If you don't have a meeting in the summer or something, you know, for August, you take a month off, you can just delete that one meeting. And or you can just leave it there, of course. And, you know, if you've told everybody you're not having a meeting and they turn up and they'll just have a lonely time. Or maybe not, maybe they'll join other people who didn't know the meeting was canceled and they can just talk to each other, that kind of thing. But it's no problem either to delete it or leave it. It doesn't cause a problem. But again,
I heard that if you do not delete it and you don't open it, that it disappears.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I've used Zoom for years at work, like all the time, and I have lots of different recurring meetings outside of this one, and that's not been my experience.
Okay.
But I can investigate further if there is some strange way that it is possible to do that, but that's not what I've experienced. So yeah, Anna, you're next.
Yes, I believe Greg and I have the same question, which is when I submitted the rechartering, I used my president at IB, ImperialBeachDemocrats.com. Who do we submit the Gmail email to?
Yeah, no, good question. And on that, there was a separate question, but only added later. You're right. So not everybody got, the people who got their rechartering in early, and thank you. Yeah, that question may not have been there, but just send clubs@sddemocrats.org, the Gmail account that you'd like to use. And again, during the year, if anything changes and you want to use a different Gmail account, again, just either email clubs@sddemocrats and staff can change it, or because your original Gmail has control of that entry, you can add more people to the Gmail as well. So you could add your eBoard Gmail people as well. You could have 3 or 4 people and give them the ability to edit those calendar entries. The only trick is they have to either have a Gmail account or they can have another account that's associated with a Gmail account, but that's too complicated to explain in this meeting. But there is a way to do it with your own private domain, set it up as well. But for that, just message me offline. But yeah, just send an email, Anna, to and Greg, send it to clubs@sddemocrats.org. Justin, you next.
Hi, I just wanted to answer Michelle. Oh man, it's all dark in here. Sorry. Michelle Krug's question. No, the link doesn't disappear. What happens is if you don't have like a dedicated Zoom account, sometimes it will erase itself from your history, but the link itself doesn't become invalidated for you. So I just want to clarify in case anyone's confused about that. The link will always be static, so you don't need to worry about that.
That's great. Thanks, Justin. And then Cody, you're next.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so actually, I can tell you what happened because I was the one that told this to Michelle. So what we learned, so for the University City Dems, I didn't want to set up a actual recurring meeting as it functions with Zoom because we were in a period of changing our meeting date and stuff. And what I had just been doing was I had been going back. Once you have a meeting, you can go to the previous meetings and just change the date. So that's what I'd been doing. And that worked out fine for like a whole year until we didn't meet for a month. And then it got automatically deleted. So that's what happened. So if you use the recurring meeting feature within Zoom, you're totally good. But just what had happened with us is because if you do have an individual link for anything that's not recurring, it will get deleted after a month and then you can't use it anymore. So that's what happened with that.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Cody. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the recurring meeting is the one we encourage everybody to use. And as you say, if you need to skip it or not use it, it's fine. It shouldn't be a problem. That's great. Okay. So, and any questions offline, just ping me and I can help. Or staff as well can help with that, because they'd really love to get it so that they don't have to update the calendar and everybody can do it themselves. Okay, so the next item we had then was the main bit we'll get into here today, which is the club needs assessment. And as I say, there's a link in the agenda for the slides. And I'm going to hand over here to Kelly to kind of talk us through it, but we're not going to talk through the slides because one, there's a lot of them. And two, for people with accessibility issues on the call, there's nothing more exciting than watching a PowerPoint presentation when you can't see what's on the screen. So we won't do that. But instead, what Kelly will do is talk to the slides. And while she's doing that, I'm going to copy the link and paste that into the chat so everybody can open the slides locally. And also I will share the slides on here. But I'll just let Kelly set this up. And a couple of things to say. We met at the Club Development Committee just recently. And that's when we got talking about this, and Kelly volunteered to take it on and put the slides together for the needs assessment. And so big thanks to Kelly for doing that. And also while she's talking, I'll just put a couple of the slides up and go through them so you can kind of see the gist of them, what's there. But as I say, we won't go through them in detail at this meeting. We'll just cover the idea of them. Yeah, just to check if you're on the phone, if you can go on mute, that's good. Yeah, if you're not talking, if you put yourself on mute, that's wonderful. Great. So Kelly, if you want to go ahead and Kareem, I'm putting you on mute again. Please don't keep unmuting. Okay, sorry, Kelly. Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and while you're talking, I'll pull up the slides.
Yes, hopefully we'll be able to coordinate here. There are the first slide gives the name of the presentation. John, I hope you can get that one up. The second slide says the 5 sections of this presentation. And so let's try and get that up on full screen so people can actually look at it. There you go. What we're seeing here is this is an email. If anyone would like copies of these slides, they can get them through the club through the sddems.org clubs, but also they're available. And now the next slide. These are the 5 sections of the presentation. And as John said, we're not going to take on each one in detail, but they include understanding why you would do a needs and the 10 possible functions that your club could form. And we'll see that in a minute. Let's take a look at the next slide. These are the needs assessments. It's kind of a techie term. The main thing is, next slide. How do we figure out what the club wants? That's the purpose of a needs assessment. And how do we ensure buy-in by everyone, both in conducting the assessment and, of course, in acting on the results of the assessment? Next slide. The reason why we're putting this together is we want people to kind of expand their idea of what your club could be. and to set goals and learn a little bit about how to set goals and figure out what your members really want, including new members, and how to develop a club focus, which is a really important strategy for being effective. Next slide. Many clubs complain that there's too much focus on endorsement, but this is the way that you find what you do want to do instead of complain about what you don't want to do, is to involve your club in a needs assessment. Next slide. All right, these are the 10 major types of functions, and we're going to check in on a few of them. But the important thing to note here is that there's more than 5. There's 2 slides of this. And notice that there's 2 types of education that your club could do. Go on to the next slide. Many people say, we don't want to just sit around and discuss things. We want to act. Well, what's important is that there's many types of actions that your club can take, and pay attention here to the difference between electoral campaigns and candidate monitoring. That's a really new idea for many people. And of course, there's legislative and outreach, etc. Next slide. This is the first, go back one, please. This is the first function that a club could focus on is fellowship. And a lot of people discount this. I'm going to draw your attention to the fact that you want to have recognition of what a new member might want, as well as people who want fun events. And also what I'm calling tangential members, where this isn't their main club, but they want to stay informed about it. And rather than ignoring them, it's better to have a system for including them. And finally, we all act as though the people who come there to announce their candidates are sort of invading on the meeting. And rather than do that, have a special spot where people in your club can, who are not members of your club, can come and tell you about an event or an organization. Let's go on to the next slide. This is education based on issues, and it includes public education. It's really a lot of people join a club because they want to learn things. This is where they learn. Next step, next slide. This kind of education is more skills training, such as learning how to get a bill through Congress or learning how to recruit volunteers or fundraising. Next slide. Some clubs, not very many, but some focus on being a policy research and issue advocacy. Now remember, any of these functions, you can use more than one, but maybe you want to expand your club to include a little bit of this, policy function and advocacy, such as developing a white paper on women in the workplace and how it's changing due to COVID. Maybe that would be a subject that you would want your club to focus on as a policy research. A lot of clubs think about speakers bureaus, and many clubs have issue teams so that there's an ongoing effort to work on policy. Next slide.
Yeah, just to jump in here, Kelly, because we said we wouldn't go through the slides, but we are kind of jumping through the slides. So what I'm going to suggest is we jump over the 10 different actions that you outlined.
Can we go to, no, can we go to just can we go to, I want to focus on a couple of them. So we got policy research. I'll just name the next one is, next slide.
Well, yeah, the reason I'm interrupting is for people who can't see the slides, presentations on Zoom when they can't see them is quite difficult. So I think it'd be more,
right. Okay.
I would encourage you
right.
to jump to the
let
ideas.
me just mention then that some of the ways that your club can function, there are 5 types of action items, and the most common one is events, but we might be thinking also of being a legislative club where you focus on getting a bill through. And a big challenge that a lot of people haven't looked at is being a candidate mentoring club. For example, what if there's no candidate that's been running that really is concerned about your issue? You might actively go out and find a candidate and work with that candidate starting maybe in January to build their reputation and their campaign. So it's not all just waiting for campaigns to come to you. You can be the instrument of, say, a campaign about water and find your own candidate and push them forward. It's a long job, but it's very satisfying. Now we're coming to identifying a club focus, and a focus can be on an issue or on a function or administrative. Next slide. Goals actually matter. They influence how effective you are. And the next slide. It's important to realize that a function can be long-term or short-term. It doesn't, a focus doesn't have to be over the whole course of your club's year. Next slide. Above all, the club setting a goal must be an inclusive process. And we want to include not just the executive board setting priorities, but everyone being involved. We want it to be something that includes people, not excludes them. And pay attention to significant minority groups. And I don't mean racial, I mean any group that is really interested in a particular issue, but that's not the issue that most of the club wants to attend to. Or if you have a club where there's 2 main issues and then about a third of the people are interested in a multitude of things. Develop a method for handling and including those. Next slide. The important thing that this is a process to develop a club focus. It's not a single decision. Next slide.
I'm going to interrupt again, Kelly, because for people who can't see the slides, I think, so we just want to talk to the ideas, right?
Well, can we go on to the next
and then open it.
slide,
And then open it to questions, because we're getting questions in the chat as well.
Okay, I thought we weren't going to do questions this time. Okay, this is an idea, okay, and you don't need the slide to think about it. A lot of times when we set goals, we set specific goals, which is good, but we don't think about the underlying meaning of the goal. What is it that we're trying to accomplish, such as seeking justice or redressing a wrong or achieving recognition? If you have a goal without thinking about what is the underlying meaning of the goal to your club members, what do they want to feel like if they accomplish the goal, your goal will be not important to people and they won't feel successful. Can we go on to the next slide?
No, I'm going to stop there because I think we should open it up, I think, to a little bit, just to get some feedback before we go on. Because a couple of things, Kelly, is I think everything you put here is really great, but I don't think the format of a Zoom meeting and the kind of meeting we're having today is ideal for just going through these, because there are people who can't see them. All they can hear is you talking to them, and you can't convey all the information that's in the slide. And so I'm gonna.
Can we go to the 4-step process? Maybe we can just talk about those 4 steps before we open it up.
Okay, can you remind me which slide that is?
That would be on slide 27.
Okay.
This is a 4-step process for developing goals. The first thing is to concentrate. Step 1 is to concentrate on what you want, which is actually hard, and 90% of your effort should be spent on concentrating on what you want. Next slide. The next step is to identify a specific action, not an action plan for achieving your goal, but a specific action. And we all know that goals are meaningless without actions, but it's also true that actions are meaningless without goals. Next slide. In some ways, this is the most important idea here. These are steps 3 and 4, which are both evaluation steps, and which you evaluate first, did the action we took get us any closer to our goal? And secondly, which is step number 4, is our goal still the same? Because a lot of times people continue working on a goal when they're getting feedback that the goal should be changed a little bit. I will just say that if we could go to slide number 31. This will help you develop. One strategy for your club is to develop an issues list. Next slide, please. And the issue, think of what would happen if every club in our county, or most of them, had developed a detailed issue list, either specific to their geographic area or perhaps more detail on a general club issue, like EnviroDems, going into an in-depth issue list on water or something of that nature. It would really move our club forward, and our clubs would become a resource for the community. If you can go to slide number 34. Now, the thing about a skills and interest survey, a lot of people begin their whole process by doing a survey, but it's really at the end of the needs assessment where you do the survey. There's a lot of prep work involved, and the survey involves 2 elements. One is, what do the members want from the club, and what do the members have to give to the club? Next slide. Consider including people in your survey development, not just taking the survey, but participating in it. Maybe you have a committee develop a draft of the survey and then have it go around in your club to be modified by the members. And then if we could go to slide number 38. When you analyze your survey results, try to avoid a top 3 kind of thing. Try and be expansive rather than narrowing things down. Next slide. And when you summarize the results, you want to summarize them into actions. But remember, your survey, the actions that your survey suggests you should take that people have given you will only be realized if your club has involved every participant possible in the process. And last slide, please. What we have here is just a summary of the 5 things that we've covered. What is a needs assessment? The 10 basic functions that a club could perform, how to identify a club focus, and developing a club's issues list, and then actual practical measures for conducting a club interest and skills survey. And the very last slide then is, for those that can see it, has my name and address on it. There's a whole lot of big ideas involved here. It can really invigorate your club and make you rethink about whether you're actually accomplishing something in a positive way, not just in a negative, how long is this going to go on, but in a positive way. So I hope that gives you a sense of what's covered in this presentation, and I hope we'll be able to discuss it more. Thank you.
No, thank you, Kelly. I think there's some really good stuff in here, and I appreciate this is not the best format, you know, just for running through it, but I think this gives everybody an idea of, you know, how to go about some of these things. And importantly, as you said, to include all club members, you know, because sometimes, you know, clubs tend to get in to the fact that a small group within the club, maybe the e-board or various cliques within the club, will drive the agenda and not take into account what all club members are looking for. And I think it's always important to remember that it really should be all club members are involved in driving through this process. And the trick is in a world where we're just meeting on Zoom and things, how to best do that. And there are various tools, you know, that we can suggest or whatever for doing surveys. But before you ever get to doing the survey tool, is to understand what you're asking and why, how you go about it, and as you've outlined here, Kelly, how you analyze it. In fact, it's not a narrow focus down to the top 1 or 2 high runners. It's also looking at the breadth of responses that you get back. So no, I really appreciate you putting it together. I think that the link for the slides is in the chat. It's in the Lucid meeting agenda as well, and we'll send it out, all the notes from this meeting afterwards. And I appreciate everybody's patience. And it is hard, I know, because I do it for a living, doing presentations online and keeping up, you know, up with them and everything. It is just kind of tricky. I also put in the chat for people who missed it earlier, the link to the Lucid meetings for following along on the agenda. And although we don't have time, as Kelly mentioned, we don't have time to take questions today. Well, we take a few, but we don't have a lot of time to take questions today. Kelly is available, her email is there. So if when you get the slides, you're working through them, you don't understand something or you want, you know, kind of help doing it, by all means, reach out to Kelly via email. So yeah, Justin, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, hi. Okay, I just want to clarify, I was not trying to at Kelly about the slides. I think they're great. Love the presentation. I was wondering if anyone is interested, I can download the slides that were sent out to everyone and make it more accessible with a narration overlay. So people who are blind or people who, you know, they're like some of the colors on here, people with certain conditions will probably not be able to see the screen. So if people are interested, you know, shoot me an email or something and I'll add that narration over the slide so everyone can get the information. Because I do know that like a decent amount of people that I know in the Dem Club area, North area, do struggle with, you know, presentations like this just because of the visual component. But thank you. This is actually super informative. So I'm really grateful for your time and effort. So I just want to say that and put that out there. Great presentation.
Yeah, no, thanks, Justin. That's a great offer. I really appreciate that. And you're right, anything to make these things more accessible is always worth doing. And especially if you have a resource as Justin just offered to do that, I think that's really great. Okay, any other questions on those? I mean, need time to digest them, look at them offline. And so if you do have questions, just shoot a note back to Kelly. Just a reminder, I have on screen for people who had joined a little later, for the voting, we'll be doing a little bit here. If you want to go into the participants tab and rename yourself, if you're here today representing your club, just go in and put an asterisk at the beginning of it, before your name, and then just put a hyphen in the name of your club afterwards. And then we'll just ask everybody else on the call to just double check when we get to the voting. It'll just be one vote per club. But as I say, if the president or whoever normally attends can't make it today, that's fine if they put somebody else here, to vote for them. But it's just one vote per club. It doesn't have to be an officer. It can be a member of the club. That's fine. Heather, you have your hand raised.
I do, thank you. Kelly, I just had one question. There's a lot to this, and obviously there's a lot of organizing involved, and it takes a lot of people power to stay on top of subgroups and people who are working on specific things within clubs. Would you say that there's a particular club within the San Diego County that does an especially good job with all of this? I would like to attend their meetings. Is there any one club that stands out? I know EnviroDems does a lot of legislative stuff, but aside from that, is there anyone?
I think there's several clubs that do really good jobs. I think that almost all clubs could do better in certain areas. The women's club has wonderful meetings, but there's always issues where we can improve. And
Thanks,
I think
Kelly.
also interacting between geographic clubs and what Sue Alderman calls infinity clubs, it's really affinity clubs, interacting between those two is probably where we're going to get the most juice out of being effective.
Thank you.
No, that's great. Thanks, Kelly, again. And with that, then we'll go to the next agenda item, which is on the ADEMS, right? Yeah, exactly. I remember. Yeah, so the ADEMS, which take place in January. And for that, I'll ask Michelle Krug if you want to bring us up to speed on the latest things there. And while you're doing that, I'll also pull up a picture here that Mike Thaler will talk to as regards to the flow of how this will happen. But Michelle, if you want to give us a kind of overview to begin, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, John. So the ADEM elections, for those of you that don't know, are the grassroots election process where 7 women and 7 men from each assembly district throughout California, so there's 80 of them, are elected internally within an internal Democratic Party election to create a third of the people who are California Democratic Party Central Committee delegates, the ones that go to the convention, vote on the party chair, et cetera, et cetera. So that creates a third. The other third are appointed by ex officios, people, Democrats who got elected to the partisan offices, Assembly, Senate, and Congress, or those Democratic nominees that didn't make it and a Republican got in, or a non-Democrat got in. And the last third are appointed through their central committees. So there are 58 counties, so through their county central committees. San Diego actually gets 67, or at least they did the last period, because all based on how many Democrats are registered in that particular county. So that just gives you an idea of where the ADEM elections or assembly district elections fall into creating the California Democratic Party delegation, which is close to 4,000 people. So we were originally going to be doing physical locations in addition to doing a mail ballot voting. We are now it has been made completely virtual. So it will be only mail ballot. I actually tried to get that changed because I feel that there's going to be people like homeless people that are going to have a difficulty getting their ballot, but they're trying to expand some of the options. One of them will be a call-in option to request your ballot, but it still doesn't take care of not having an address. Anyway, that is what is going on right now in terms of conversation with the California Democratic Party, but it will be entirely virtual. If you go to adem.cadem, so adem.cadem.org, on that website, you'll be able to get two links. One link is to actually register to become a candidate in these assembly district elections for your particular assembly district. And the second link is to request a mail-in ballot to go to your home. As a candidate, you do not need to make that request. It's automatic for anyone that signs up as a candidate. But everybody else that you want to vote for you who lives in your assembly district and is a registered Democrat, you want to get them now, to start asking or requesting their absentee ballots. The application period to run as a candidate is November 15th through December 15th. And the absentee ballots will need to be received by the party. It's being sent to a PO box, and everybody's is going to the same place. So that deadline date is January 27th for it to be received. The other deadline date is going to be January 11th, unless that gets changed, when people can actually request to get a ballot sent to their home. So November 15th through December 15th to actually apply as a candidate to run for one of those 7 seats of 7 female, 7 identified other than female. And if you're interested in running for the executive board, there's 1 spot in each assembly district. All of that has to happen between November 15th and December 15th. And then pushing from now until, the end of the time that you would be able to get your ballot back by January 27th is when you can ask people to have applied, but they have to have applied as of now by January 11th just to get that ballot. Those are the dates that are involved. Everything you've heard previous to this, or that I've said previous to this, about the elections taking place January 9th or 10th, or January 23rd and 24th, was changed during this past e-board. And that the one that's coming up that John mentioned on Saturday, January 16th, is another e-board where the actual vote is going to take place, but honestly, it's after when most of this is going on. And they actually said at the e-board, I guess we're going to be asking forgiveness rather than permission. So just be aware that that's what's happening. When you fill out your application, there is a $30 fee for running as a candidate. That fee can be waived if you email the party at adem@cadem.org and ask for a waiver. And essentially, there are a lot of people that are creating slates. That's all up to you. And I've gotten questions about how do I contact all the voters that potentially can vote, which is any Democrat that lives in your assembly district. And the answer is that that's going to be up to you as a candidate to contact whoever you can contact. Obviously, you can pay for services like PDI or Vote Builder, or go to the Register of Voters and get the raw data and try to use that. And the first thing I always suggest is look to your own neighbors, your own family, because even if someone doesn't live in your assembly district, it's very likely they have friends that do. And people can re-register if they're a non-party person or if they're a Republican. They have the ability to re-register up until when they can request the ballots. In order to run as a candidate, you have to have been registered as a Democrat by November 3rd. Are there any questions on the general idea of the Assembly District delegate elections? Because they happen every 2 years in the odd year after the presidential election.
Yeah, and Michelle, just before we go to questions, just to finish up, if I can ask Mike Thaler just to talk us through the flow, because he sent me a great diagram this morning that I'll put on the screen and I'll put in the chat, and that might also just answer questions that some people may have in a minute. But we'll take questions just after Mike has explained what he's doing with that U-Haul truck in front of the White House. No, what he's doing about the flow of the elections. Yeah, the ballots. Thanks, Mike. I can ask to unmute you if you like. Yeah.
There we go. I assume everyone can hear me. Just a little background. I was the ADEM committee was formed about a year ago to improve the ADEM process, and my proposal for counting ballots is the one that they went by. After the committee disbanded, I stuck with it and have worked most of the COVID virus in getting all the contracts done and in getting everything worked out, and also in working on Photoshop in order to make my background. In any case, there's two ways to register. One is online, one is phone in. If you register online, you fill in the registration form using the link that Michelle mentioned. If you have a problem and, for instance, no access to a computer or a handicap that prevents you from using a computer, you can phone in registration. If you register online, you fill in the registration form. If you phone in, the CDP agent fills it in for you, and after that, it goes into that little diamond where eligibility is verified. Now, to be eligible, you have to be a registered Democrat in California, and specifically in your assembly district. And when you register, you have to put in an address, and that is the address to which your ballot will be mailed. So people who are houseless or people who live in mobile units such as a trailer, camper trailer, still will have an address they will get their ballot at, and then they can get help filling in if they need to. The ballot is mailed to the voter, as I said. The voter fills it out and sends it to the PO box, which then they're accumulated and sent to a third party, happens to be Scantron. That's the big pink circle. And the third party counts the ballots and once certifies the results, similar to a real election. Well, that might not be the best term. They release the results, returns the ballots to the CDP along with a digital copy of all of the ballots that you can actually go online and see them. And that pretty much summarizes things. let me just mention something that isn't on here, is that as a candidate, there's no speeches because there's no in-person voting. It's recommended that you do something like put together a little speech and send it to YouTube and include that link when you actually sign up to run. So that pretty much is all the stuff that I can add.
No, that's great.
Happy to take questions if there's time.
Yeah, well, in fact, what I'd like to do is ask if Michelle and Mike, if you're available to stay around a little after 12. I'm just cognizant of the time and people have to jump off here maybe early. So what we'll do is we'll put the questions on hold and we'll go to the next agenda item, which is the voting on director of clubs, so we can get that done before the hour.
Okay,
then,
John, let me just.
Can you stay after 12, Michelle?
I can, but I was going to do it through the questions because I knew this was going to be one of the questions, but I just want to make sure that everyone hears that part of that process when you are signing up to be a candidate is the first part of it. You're just signing up to put in your application. And the second part is asking for money. So don't just go ahead and sign up and then you can ask for the waiver. And then they will send you an email with a link to put a statement of 2,400 characters, which is roughly 416 words. So you can start thinking about what it is that you might like to say. And as Mike said, you're also welcome to include a video on your own platform. So it needs to be on YouTube or Facebook, and you can include the link for that. But I was going to mention that during the questions. Thanks. And yes, I can stay.
That's great. No, thank you both. And yeah, if you can hang around, we'll move on. And then just as a by the by, and maybe Mike, if you know people to talk to about that, currently, if you do register on the form on the website to get to vote, and then you later go to register to be a candidate, it won't let you. And so for anybody who does want to run as a candidate, just do that one first. Don't register to vote, just register as a candidate. You know, if you're not sure,
Yes,
wait.
you register as a candidate, you're automatically ready.
Right. Exactly. But if you register to vote, it won't let you later register as a candidate. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're not certain, wait until after December the 15th or whatever for registering for voting. But yeah, so with that, then we'll come on to the next agenda item, which is the election of the director of clubs. And so I think everybody pretty much in the participants tab by now has renamed themselves. And if not, if you just want to look, participants tab is normally a button at the bottom of your screen somewhere. Everybody in the meeting should show up on the right-hand side. If you're here representing a club, just put a hyphen in the name of your club after your name. And if you're the one person, one vote per club voting for the club today, put a little asterisk in front of your name. And with that, I will ask if there are any nominations from the floor for the director of clubs. Would anybody like to raise? I see a hand raised. Yep. Ryan Trabucco, if you want to go ahead.
Thanks, John. I would like to nominate Cody Vieira.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And then are there any other nominations? Well, actually, no, before I go there, I just ask Cody Vieira, do you accept the nomination from Ryan?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. Sorry. And then, yeah, are there any other nominations?
I would second that for Cody Vieira.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you. Okay, there's no other nominations from the floor. This could make my life a lot easier and we get some time back, if that's true. I see Scott, you have your hand raised.
John, are you not running for director of clubs this time?
No. A couple of years ago, we were back in the 465. Back then I said, if anybody wants to run for director of clubs, I'll happily step aside and will not challenge them. But nobody took me up on the offer. So that's why he got me for a second term. But the same offer stands. Yeah, if anybody wants to run for director of clubs, I'm a believer in term limits, if you like. I don't think anybody should do anything for too long, because it's always better to bring new people with new ideas through the process. And yeah, whoever gets elected today, I will help them with anything technical and move over, all the stuff we've built so far. But no, I'm not running. If Cody's running, I'm not running. And thank you, Cody. Yeah. But is there anybody else who would like to nominate anybody? Okay, that's the second time I've asked. So yeah, Kelly, you have hand raised.
This isn't a nomination, but I have to say that, John, you have done such a marvelous job of helping people, of being neutral, and maybe we should think about a way to include you as a consultant or something like that. Because I agree with you, the notion of having someone new, but I also think you have done a spectacular job, and I don't want to lose all of your expertise and just generosity of spirit. So just an idea, folks.
No, thank you, Kelly, for that. But yeah, don't worry, you won't get rid of me that easily, but only as far as Cody wants. She is more than capable, I think, of doing all the same background techie stuff that I do, and in many cases surpasses what my knowledge. So yeah, but I appreciate the comment. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'll ask for the third time then. Is there anybody who wants to nominate anybody? Okay, seeing no other nominations from the floor, I will entertain a motion that we elect or nominate for the Senate committee. There, you actually do the thingy for. Let's see. Now it's a race to see who hand got up first. And Ryan, you were pipped to the post by Tamika. So Tamika, do you want to go ahead?
I so move that by acclamation that we elect Cody Vieira as the Council of Clubs Director.
And I'll second.
I'll second that.
That's great. Thank you both. And so with that, all the people have little stars next to their names. The other people will ask you to be honest and not do anything. We'll just, are there any objections to electing Cody Vieira? Let's see, first of all, I'm going to clear all the hands down. Just a second, I'm going to clear everything down and then ask, are there any objections to electing Cody by acclamation? Okay, so now what I'd like to do is everybody can come off mute and everybody can scream and applaud. So Cody, congratulations.
Thank you.
Cody! Nicely done, dude.
Feedback, Cody.
Congrats, Cody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and now we'll put you on the spot, because
Yeah.
I was going to give all the candidates 5 minutes to talk. So now you don't have to take all 5 minutes, but if you'd like to take a few minutes to talk, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll take a few minutes. You can hear me all right?
Yes, yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate the support. I guess, I'll talk a little bit just about my experience and, what I would like to do with this role. Again, anyone listening in, my name is Cody Vieira. And I first actually want to thank John for all the work that he's done these past few years as director of clubs, especially, helping us transition to virtual meetings, which is, kind of unprecedented. I did serve on the club development committee with him for a couple of years. I think it was 2017 to 2019. A lot of folks were interested in 2019, so I kind of wanted to give some space for that. But, on there, we had a lot of discussions about, potential bylaw amendments, rule changes, and other things that were impacting or could be impacting our local clubs. And I appreciate that, he was always willing to take my input and ideas and others as well. When I learned that he was, interested in maybe passing on the torch, so to speak, I talked to him. We had a really great and encouraging conversation. So I decided to run for this. Personally, I've been involved with the county party since I was volunteering in 2012. I first served on the board of a club with the UCSC College Gems from 2014 to 2016. And then right now I serve as president of the University City Dem Club. I don't have an asterisk right now because my lovely Vice President H here is voting on behalf of our club, but I'm also the Vice President of the San Diego County Young Dems, and I serve also as Secretary of the statewide California Young Dems, previously served as our regional director for that as well. And in all those roles, you know, I've helped start and grow and mentor Dem clubs in San Diego, as well as other regions of California, especially for the young Dems clubs that are new. You know, we really want to help guide them. You know, we actually do have this process that we go through with chartering every year that I've gone through with a lot of our clubs. That includes, you know, reviewing your annual activities and accomplishments and setting goals for the next year. And also asking them to provide feedback to our executive board about how we can best, you know, assist them with doing that moving forward. So thank you to Kelly for, you know, including a lot of that as well as in your presentation. I think that's important. And yeah, so basically I've used this to help a lot of clubs plan things out as well as my own clubs. And earlier this year, I actually began working with a group of students from my local high school, the University City High School, and I helped them with this, helped them start a club at their school. And my goal with that has also been to kind of help build a leadership pipeline between the students and the, you know, non-young Dems. So we did bring on a couple students from there onto our executive board. And we also have Jacob Faust, who just graduated from UCSD, who's on our board now too. And I think that's been really beneficial to our club. And I've also been, you know, working to connect some of the other student groups with their local geographic clubs. And I think that type of mentorship is really beneficial to, you know, both parties with that. And yeah, I also just want to continue building on and improving, you know, the community that our clubs have formed with the Council of Clubs, and, you know, continue to help facilitate sharing ideas, information, tools, and best practices moving forward. So yeah, thank you again so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to serve in this role. And yeah, I think that's it.
Excellent. No, thank you, Cody. That's great. And yeah, as we have a few minutes back. Yeah, any immediate questions for Cody?
Question not so much for Cody, but when is the effective date of this election?
Yeah, yeah, good question, Phil. Yes, how it works then is, so what we did today then is we made a nomination to the Central Committee as to who should be the Director of Clubs for the next biennial term. And what will happen is on that second Tuesday in January, on January the 12th, that's when the body, the newly sworn in members of the Central Committee will then ratify the decision. And Jana's getting excited as well. I think she's on board. So yeah, so at that meeting they ratified. Now, if for some reason the Central Committee said, "Oh no, you can't possibly have that, you know, terrible person," then they would kick it back, and then the council would have to pick a second person. And then if they suggested the second person and the council still said no, then there's a vacancy procedure that's followed by the Central Committee. But I don't think that's ever happened. So, and the same process is used for Go Team. So last Sunday, I think, Seth Resnick, who I think she's on the call. Yeah, Seth is on the call. Seth was elected as the director of Go Team by the Go Team members. And so election is maybe the wrong term. It's basically a recommendation or a nomination. It's really the Central Committee that does the installation of the person. So yeah, you're stuck with me through January the 12th or whatever, but then after January the 12th, there's a new world. Yeah. And yeah, a couple of questions. Michelle, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wondered, Cody, what is it that's important to you about the Council of Clubs? What function has it had for you as a president, and obviously as a club leader in several other clubs like the Young Dems?
Yeah, so kind of expand on what I said before, I think it's a really great tool to be able to help all of our clubs grow collectively. I mean, I know I've personally learned a lot from the Council of Clubs meetings, from, Doug Case presenting about Robert's rules, to folks talking about, finance, rules for clubs and all of that. And I think, there's a really great opportunity there, to help each other build and grow and share, best practices. And I know we've sometimes had a lot of speakers that they're so great at Council of Clubs, and then everyone else goes and does them for their clubs too, which is great. And I think, something that works for one club that they, figure out, it's a really great thing to be able to share that and really help build our party. So I think that's a really great thing. And, I would love to help, facilitate that further moving forward.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's great. And then any other questions?
Well, I had a question. First of all, thank you, John. So would you be around, or are you going to bail out, John? That's one question. The second question for Cody, congratulations, my dear. I am very impressed by all of your affiliations, activities. What's your background? What is the source of this commitment and passion? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always been kind of interested in politics in general. My elementary school had a mock election, and apparently I was the only one that voted for Al Gore in 2000. But aside from that, I first got involved when I went to UC San Diego. A friend of mine recruited me to volunteer in 2012, and it kind of just went from there. At first, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I got recruited, and I became a member of the UCSD College Democrats, and it kind of just launched headfirst in from there. Volunteering, interning on campaigns, working on campaigns, getting our Democrats elected, and especially with, kind of the Young Democrats organization was kind of like my main entry point. And I mean, I had wished that I'd known that it was something I could do when I was in high school. I think that would have also really helped me figure maybe a little sooner what I was interested in doing, or that it was even an option. But I really love working with folks and getting them involved, and kind of showing this is what the process is, this is how the Democratic Party works, this is how you can have a voice and a say in our party and our elections, and how the people we elect govern. So yeah, I'm passionate about this, and I really enjoy doing it, and I appreciate the opportunity that you all have given me to serve in this role.
Thank you, Cody. Really appreciate it. And it's wonderful to see young people leading us at this time. And it's very magnanimous of John to bow out, even though it's quite surprising for me, because I got used to seeing John since I started being active, in the Democratic Club. So he has been a wonderful mentor, and I hope you will be a mentor for younger people. I have few people who would like to reach out to you and learn from you. They are in high school, and I totally agree with you. We need to start with them young and educate them on the government and voting. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And also that's something that they've shown, if you get involved sooner, you'll be, a better voter moving forward, throughout the rest of your life, the earlier you get involved. So that's important too. And yeah, I mean, John had mentioned before, but he had told me, he's happy to, help with a lot of the, tech and background stuff. I mean, I'm a millennial. I like to think that I'm pretty good with that sort of thing, but, I definitely appreciate, any support with, learning those systems as well. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll answer your question with that in just a minute, but Justin has a hand up. Justin, if you want to go ahead.
Hi. So I don't believe we've met Cody, but I'm
Oh my
just
gosh.
just kidding. I know Cody. But I had a question actually, and I think this is useful for everyone. So you're really good with rules. You've got like a reputation for being really good at coding things. What resources did you use to sort of get proficient in Robert's rules? And what tools do you recommend to new organizers or new clubs who are maybe a little bit nervous about, learning parliamentary procedure?
Yeah, I think one thing is with Robert's Rules and Parliamentary Procedure, it can seem a little daunting because there are all these rules, but it really does help facilitate meetings to kind of have, and in fact, it empowers people, right? Because, if you have, a club president who doesn't want to hear from people, to know the rules about making a point of order, a point of information, and things like that is really beneficial to ensure, fair participation among people. And, I'm still learning. I learned a lot from Doug Case. Shout out again for that. He's been really great with that. And, there are also a lot of guides available online. You can purchase the Robert's Rules book. I have not done that yet. I'm a little, that's a lot to read, but there are a lot of guides out there that are kind of like, what's the phrase? Like they're kind of, first introductory to kind of like the basic rules of Robert's Rules. And I guess just think of it as like a learning process. I didn't know everything when I first started serving on the board of clubs, but as you go through contentious endorsement processes and a lot of those things, you'll start to learn more about how those work. So, don't expect to just memorize everything off the bat, but kind of, take it as you go. And again, Robert's Rules just got updated, so you never know, things might change, but that's okay. And yeah, if anyone wants any specific resources, I'm happy to forward some information along. We do have some guides through like the Young Democrats that I've provided to some of our Young Dem clubs that I think have been pretty beneficial too. And I know Doug and some other folks have some as well.
No, that's great. So any more questions for Cody? Or offline, obviously, you can ping Cody. But no, thank you again, Cody, and congratulations. And then, yeah, I'll just answer Wadad's question about, so what am I getting up to? And that's just to say, there's another organization that I'm involved with, which is called PANA. You may have known it, the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, where I have the pleasure of working on a great board, and also with Ramla Saeed. And some of you may know that Ramla is expecting her first child, which will be born very cleverly. The due date is January 27th, which is after the inauguration. So I think that was good planning. And so Ramla's obviously taking a little bit of time off from that organization, and Humaira Yousefi, which a lot of you probably know as well, will be stepping up as the interim kind of executive director for PANA. And so I need to spend a little bit more of my time doing that and a little bit less time doing this. So that timing all kind of works out quite well. But yeah, I'll still be around if people need to get a hold of me. And certainly, yeah, any thing on the tech side I can help with. But as Cody said, yeah, most millennials are light years ahead of me anyway. But any of the systems we put up, we'll transition all those over. And so that should be easy. Okay, so with that then, I think the last section we had on the agenda was just for announcements. And then I say we'll come back to the questions that people may have on the ADEMS. And so if there's anybody who'd like to make an announcement, if you just want to raise your hand in the participants tab, and everybody will get a minute. Well, depending how many people put their hands up, maybe we can give a little bit more than a minute. We're just over the hour. But yeah, Shane, if you want to go ahead.
Hey there. So I wanted to just invite everybody today to our Walk the Block exercise over in Point Loma. We'll be walking the block near Kevin Faulkner's house as a way to bring awareness to the issue of child homelessness and our county's horrific inability, or so far they've not been filling our COVID hotel rooms that are federally funded. They come out of FEMA. We should be filling them with people with disabilities, unsheltered people with disabilities were not supposed to be moved into the convention center. They were supposed to get hotel rooms. So they fit a certain description. The San Diego County is the lowest in the state for filling these rooms. We're at 7% today. And counties that hate poor people and are very much run by Republicans are doing a way better job at filling their rooms. So this last week, I started the group Teachers for Students and people with disabilities experiencing homelessness. And we have a Facebook page and an event today. We held a press conference yesterday, and we'll be talking about this more over the next month. We're asking every elected official to do everything within their power to reach a 90% occupancy rate of our COVID hotel rooms by December 15th, by filling them with our students, our families with kids, so they can access distance learning, and then also our unsheltered neighbors with disabilities. And it's totally doable. Currently, the prevailing logic that's been guiding the decision-making that is obviously proven to be flawed is that it would be unfair to put someone in a hotel room without wraparound services, which the logic means that it's better to leave somebody on a street without wraparound services. So we're pushing back on this logic and asking everybody to reevaluate that and question it and say, no, a mom and her kids would be better sleeping in a hotel room than in a park. That is not good logic, and we should no longer use it to guide our decision making. So I will try to put the link in the chat. Thanks for asking. And at 3 o'clock, Point Loma Library, we'll be having some other events too. Obviously, wear a mask. We're staying away from each other. It's a quiet walk. We're just walking the neighborhood, holding a sign, and getting our steps in for the students. So if you can join us, that'd be great. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Shane. And then next up, we have Kelly.
I just wanted to mention, in case every club didn't know, that there is an equivalent to the Council of Clubs at the state level that's called the California Democratic Council. And it's been in existence since the 1960s. They have a lot of support services. For example, the thing they're focusing on right now is providing any club, any Democratic club, with a website. Those of you who don't have a website and would like to participate in that, contact the CDC. It's California Democratic Council as a part of the Democratic Party.
That's great. Thanks, Kelly. And then next up, we have Michelle. Michelle, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, just, am I muted, John?
No, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to just remind people that redistricting is coming up. The census numbers, as low as they are all being turned in to Trump on December 31st. And the full report from the census is not due out until April 1st, but starting in January, various districts are going to be starting their redistricting process. So I strongly encourage everyone to start thinking about your school boards, start thinking about your water boards, city council, etc., county board of supervisors, and look at those maps and see what you think might be a more equitable line drawing and boundaries. The state ones have already started for the Assembly District, Senate, and just in gathering information. Assembly, Senate, and congressional districts. There's a state commission that was formed about a year ago now. So just be aware that redistricting makes a major difference. It only happens every 10 years after the census comes out. So please pay attention to that. Thanks.
I think you're muted, John.
Oh, thanks, Justin. Sorry, I was saying, sorry. Yeah, no wonder Narima didn't respond. Sorry, Narima. Yeah, sorry, you had your hand up first. Do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So I'm Narima Lopez. I'm the president of the Encinitas and North Coast Democratic Club. We have a meeting on December 12th at 12:30. It's a Zoom meeting, and we've invited Congressman Scott Peters to talk to us about the transition of the presidency. I've been getting a lot of questions from our members. They feel very unsettled about what's going on. So if any of you want to join our Zoom meeting, I will, once I figure out Google Calendar, I will post the link there. If not, you can go to our club website at encdc.org. I also want to say that we did very well here in this area in Encinitas. Mayor Catherine Blakespear got re-elected. She had a hard fight, Tara Lawson-Remer. And we had the other Democrats, Tony Krantz and Kelly Heinze, elected at the city council. So we did great here in this area. And yes, hope you can join us on the 12th. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Narima. And then Justin, yeah, if you want to go next.
Hi, sorry, I'm a little bit more hyper today because of coffee. I was volunteering with the Labor Council for Food Distribution, and I just wanted to remind everyone to really interrogate what the volunteering opportunities are for food. Because of COVID, you can't donate food from family homes directly. I think it has to come from the county. That's what I heard, but that might not be 100% accurate. But that's what I was told, which is why we only had a limited amount of packages to give people. And it was really quite tragic here in North County to see so many people. We had lines all the way up to the freeway from Palomar College, and we had to cut them off. So I really hope that people will keep that in their minds. I was homeless as a kid, so I'm always very conscious about hunger because that's something I lived with. And so I feel, tremendously worried about people, especially in North County and San Diego, who might not have the food they need, especially as Thanksgiving comes up. So I'm going to encourage everyone to remind their membership to volunteer, see if they can contribute food and see what ways that they can do it with the COVID restrictions, and to please, please do it, because that can save a life and change a world. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Justin. And then Shane.
Oh, okay, Shane.
Sorry, I raised my hand because it didn't look like there were a ton of people online. So two things. There's a couple people messaging me that the Walk the Block event is not showing up for them on Facebook. And so I just 3 p.m. the Point Loma Library, and I'm trying to figure out if our event got reported but it's multiple people having, or if it's user error, what's going on with that. Yeah, the link is not working. Okay. And then secondly, I totally forgot to announce, We the People Democrat Club will be having our next meeting on December 3rd. We've not calendared it yet. That's my bad. I've just been kind of busy. Our topic is basically, what's a good way to say it? White supremacy culture in liberal spaces, looking at white fragility and how that relates to the race for city council president, and how the racial dynamics and the white supremacy culture that is playing out in the race between Monica Montgomery and Dr. Jen Campbell. So that's December 3rd, 6 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you, Shane. Cess, you're up next.
Yeah, there's lots of great stuff going on at club meetings, and it would be wonderful if we could find a way to put those topics down. I think if it's in the calendar, it's going to kind of get buried, but it would be good to have a way of all the clubs announcing what they're doing so people could go to all these excellent topics that are going on at club meetings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something Vieira's taking notes on that, I think. And then Anna, yep.
Just real quick, Shane reminded me I should probably announce as well our meetings on the same evening. Sorry, Shane, but for those who may want to join in on the Imperial Beach Democratic Club meeting, we are going to have Lucero Sanchez from the San Diego Coastkeeper. She is their community policy coordinator, and she's going to be doing a presentation on the great work they're doing and how we can get involved with that.
No, that's great. Thanks, Anna. And then, yeah, I have just one quick announcement that I was asked to share, and that is, yeah, a lot of people are asking how they can get involved in helping things in Georgia and making them better or not worse, obviously. And this afternoon, there is from 3 to 5 o'clock, Wendy Galertner, who people may know from the Pacific Beach Democratic Club, and also from other activities around time at Swing Left. They have an event this afternoon, and I'll cut and paste that link and put it in the chat. And then as well as that event, the other groups that Wendy recommends reaching out to is obviously Vote Forward, Postcards to Voters, Stacey Abrams' organization Fair Fight. There's also the New Georgia Project for voter registration and the America Votes Action Fund. And I'll put all those in the notes as well. And if you're not familiar with Wendy and the Swing Left group, definitely get on her mailing list, and she'll keep you up to date with a lot of good stuff that is being organized around Georgia. So I think, seeing no further hands in
John,
Michelle.
John, can I just add something to what you just said about Georgia?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Just people should know that December 7th is in Georgia is the last day for people to register. So there's really a lot of work that can be done between today, all through Thanksgiving till December 7th, just to get them registered to vote. And then, of course, the election is January 5th.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thanks, Kelly, for highlighting that. I put it on the slide and I forgot to read it out. And yeah, effectively, it means we have 2 weeks to do that kind of organizing work, and then there'll be a shift to different kind of organizing work after that. But no, thank you for emphasizing that. Sorry, Michelle, that's what I'm so bad with names this morning. Anyway, yeah, so let's see. Kelly, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I want to point out there are 1 million Spanish-speaking voters in Georgia. So our community really has a lot to contribute in that right, especially if you're a Spanish-speaking person who can do phone calls. 1 million Spanish-speaking voters. They're up for grabs and we can grab them.
That's good. Yeah, thank you, Kelly, for that. So with that, with no more questions in the chat and all the announcements, well, Indra.
Sorry, I've got a quick one to go off Kelly's announcement. There's a group called They See Blue, or They See Blue. It's a group that's going to be calling East Indians in Georgia. I'll post a link in the chat, but they'll also be trying to activate that voter base. They did a really great job calling in East Indian communities in swing states for this last election. But if anybody wants, I'll put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, no, that's great, Indra. In fact, I'm not aware of that group. Just while you were talking, I Googled it, which is there. So I'll just check now that there are no more hands raised. But I was going to say we'll adjourn the meeting, but anybody who has questions on the ADEMS, I saw there were some questions in the chat and I wasn't able to get to those. But if you have questions on the ADEMS, hang around, because Michelle and Mike have offered to hang around and answer those questions. So with that, thank you, everybody. This meeting is now adjourned. Okay, so we'll leave people a chance to drop off, and then and anybody has a question for Michelle or Mike on the ADEMS? Sess, you were there first.
Do you want to read the ones that are in the chat?
Yeah, I'll dig back to those, but let's go ahead with Sess and Anna while they're on. Yeah, and I'll scroll back, Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah, I just clarification about if we want to put in the candidate statement, how do we go about doing that?
You first have to apply.
Okay, I've already applied. I already applied.
Well, then you would have already received an email that already said, this is where you click to put in your statement. So after you apply, the second step is generally the money or the waiver. And then they will send you an email that says, this is where you can put in your candidate statement.
Okay, so the email should come from CADEM. What do
I don't know where. No, it does not come from CADEM. It's immediately after you apply. So if you applied, you would have gotten it immediately right after that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe it's coming from Condemn. They have it contracted.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's automatic. When you apply, it will end up in the email that you put in your application.
I just said that.
Yeah, no, so just to check, yeah, and when you get that, to answer for me, Mike, so when you get that email back, that's where you'll get the ability to put in your candidate statement and a link to any online media that you have that promotes your candidacy. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. And you said earlier, Michelle, that's 2,400 characters.
Right, which is roughly 416 words.
Right.
But you must be ready to put the link in. If you are going to do a video, you must do it at the same time. You
Right,
cannot.
You
go
can't come back and do it later. So Seth, in the meantime, while you're waiting to discover which of your spam folders the email went to, you can be thinking about your 400-word candidate summary and recording your own video.
Okay, thank you.
Anna.
The other thing I'll just add to that before Anna goes is that it's very unforgiving. So I do not suggest that you actually type your statement into the actual link of the application to put your statement in. I suggest you type it into a Word document or a Google document and then copy that and put it into the application. Because if you make a mistake and you wind up hitting submit, again, they will not let you fix it later. They just can't. They can't deal with thousands of applicants to go back and find their application. So it's not, can't make a mistake.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I recommend that you use, you can use your smartphone to create your video, or you can get as fancy as you want. But I recommend that you use YouTube, and when you upload it to YouTube, it gives you a short link that you can include in your statement. And keep in mind, even the link counts against that 24-character limit.
2,400. Yeah. And Michelle, sorry, Michelle, just a couple of things. Your phone is very kind of muffled. And also when you move it around, it makes a lot of kind of background noise. So I don't know if you want to try again, just it was kind of, your voice was getting muffled.
I was
That's
just
good.
told from the CDP that the link does not count against it, and it's actually put in a separate place on the second application where they ask you to put the link, but it does not count against your words.
Okay, that's good. But the advice you had about writing it out first and cutting it and pasting it, in my experience, is always good advice with any online form. Unless you want to increase the vocabulary of your profanities that you can come up with when it loses everything on you. So yeah, I think if you're going to write it out, always write it out first and then cut and paste it. Don't write it live into a web form. That's just me. But yeah, so Anna, you're next.
Yes, thanks. Just a couple of things. But I think the first part's already been addressed. So what I did is when I went on, I registered, I got an email, and then it says click here to fill out your form. So, you know, it was quite easy to do. I wasn't aware about the video part. So it's too late because it says you can't go back in and edit it. So Mike, I have a question. When you said they make the videos available for people to watch, so do they make the statements available for people to read as well?
Yes, they will, in fact, or at least they have historically. There hasn't been much mention of it. Maybe Michelle knows for sure.
Yeah, Michelle, I just sent you an ask. There you go. An ask to unmute message. There you go.
Yeah, they are going to be placing both. And my understanding is the video will be either right next to it, or if you include a video. If you don't, then you'll just have the candidate statement.
Okay.
The video will show up as a link, no doubt.
Can you just remind me where we go? Like if Coronado Club and ourselves or whomever else wanted to put a slate together you know, for the 78th of who the candidates are? And
No, I cannot tell you that because they're not going to be released until December, after December 15th.
so after, then the list of all those that are candidates will be available after December 15th.
After December 15th, yes, the candidates and their statements. But I also, you cannot write another candidate's name in your statement. That's all part of your instructions.
Right.
So as far as the slate is concerned, that's something that you need to do on your own.
Right, that's what I mean. But, you know, in order to see who from the 78 is, you know, all the candidates are, like if we wanted to work to help get them elected, that's all I was talking about. Just where to access that list. So that'll be after December 15th, and that'll be on the ADEM website or the KDEM website? The ADEM.
On the KDEM website.
Okay.
But I
Perfect.
don't think the list of voters will be available. So, you know, so.
No, not the voters. She asked about the candidates.
Right, no, but I'm just clarifying that.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much.
And there were some questions in the chat, and
Yeah, before we go there, Mike, yeah, Janet is next.
Hi, yeah, actually, mine's back to the basics here. I understand how to, everybody talking about how to get on there. But I need to be able to speak to like our members. We're having a meeting coming up, and I have not participated at the state level. So can you tell me exactly what all the ADEMs are voting for and what the whole job is about, so I can condense that a little bit?
Yeah, basically the state central committee is what your question is. The state central committee, of which the ADEMs are just a third or a part of it, vote on deciding on the pre-endorsements who the Democratic Party candidate is who gets the endorsement. So there may be 3 or 4 candidates running that are all Dems, and that group of people who live in that district are the ones that get to vote as to who should become get the Democratic Party endorsement. It's a little more complicated than that. I'm happy to explain to you offline. If it doesn't happen on the local level where the clubs actually get to participate, it will happen at the convention, and then it still can get challenged at the convention and involve all 4,000 delegates. But
is it specifically just for the California chair, or are there other positions that are being considered?
No, it's your congressperson. Who's your congressperson?
Scott Peters.
So it would be of any of the partisan electeds when they have 3 or 4 Democrats that are running for that position. It's the people in that area that actually get to vote and decide who should get the Democratic Party endorsement. If your assembly person is challenged, if your Senate or Congress, any of those elected officials, we have a process every 2 years, and so it's that group of people that gets to decide your local partisan elections in terms of who gets the Democratic Party endorsement. Does that make sense, Jana?
Okay, I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think I get it now.
Yeah, and
okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, Jana, if you go to the adem.kdem.org link, at the top of that first page, when you scroll down, it does have a description here of the role of the delegates with some bullet points. So yeah, if you're trying to summarize it for the club, you could cut and paste those from here. So they list, echoing what Michelle said, you know, the election of the officers, the election of the regional directors, including Michelle, right? The vote for the endorsement of the endorsements of the party, that was what Michelle was saying. So yeah, for example, if Scott were to step down and not run again, that would probably be a lot of people would, well, I imagine a lot of Democrats would run in the primary for that seat. And then the question is, which, if any of them, would the party get behind? So this is the kind of process. So we have a similar thing at the local level, but it's these delegates that get to decide at the state level. And then also
At the state
ballot
level. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, and propositions as well. You can vote for positions on the different propositions and the platform. So there's various standing committees within the CDP, and those kind of things get voted on when they bring things forward.
Okay,
And
great. Thank you.
And the officers that you mentioned, like the party chair,
Yeah.
vice chair, controller.
Right, and they'll be coming. Yeah, so those are in odd numbered years, right? So those will all be coming up this year then.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. And also, it's a great way if you want to get lots of email that you never knew you wanted before. You know, becoming a delegate, you will get more email than you've ever imagined from parts of the states that, if you're like me, you didn't know existed. But it's a good way of learning the geography of California.
Okay, thank you. That's funny.
Also, there are many parties to attend during the actual in-person conventions that it's sort of like a side benefit.
It's fun.
Yes, that's true. There's lots of bribery and alcohol involved.
Oh, yeah, lots of alcohol. In fact, lately there's even been a little marijuana.
That's so funny because that's what I've always heard about. I haven't heard about the real business that gets done.
No, well, that is where the
some people have been delegates for years and don't know about the real business.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And then, yeah, Sess, you're next.
Yeah. So I've never done one of these video things. How do you you make it on your cell phone, and then how do you get it onto Zoom, onto YouTube?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, what it is you have to have a Google account, which you will have if you've ever used Google. Or if you have an Android phone, or if you use Gmail. And at that point, you have what's called a YouTube channel. And it's one of the options when you go into YouTube. It's a little more complicated than what I can say quickly, but it's basically you take the video that you've made on your phone or however you've made it and upload it to your channel in YouTube. This is the concept level. And once it's done uploading, it gives you a link that you can give out.
Okay, thank you.
But it is a little more complicated than that, but it's not difficult.
Okay.
And just to check, Mike, you don't have to use YouTube, right? You could
No,
use
no,
Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or any of the other video type services that you can use. They're more easily done normally.
What would you suggest, John?
Depends who your target audience is, I guess, as to the age demographic you want to contact the video to, maybe. But no, I would talk to any millennials you know and see what's the popular video sharing service.
Okay.
And as long as it has a
YouTube is-
link,
yeah.
you can then put it
Yes.
in your candidate statement.
Okay.
Exactly. So Kelly, you next.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that the ADEMS is the way that the California Democratic Party reaches out to the community. It's a really potentially very powerful group. And I know a lot of people are taking sides and doing slates. Let's try to be inclusive on our slates by being clear on what our criteria are for being on a slate, so that people can join in the slate if it's appropriate. But also, let's maximize the potential power of the ADEMS.
Yep, no, that's good. So any other questions online? And then Mike, you mentioned in the chat.
Yeah, there were some questions in the chat and I actually answered them, but
Okay.
People probably missed them. And basically they were emphasizing things. For instance, there was some confusion over if you want to run, how do you get to vote? And the answer is when you sign up to run, you've also signed up to vote. The other thing that was asked was about that deadline of January 27th to get your ballot to the PO box, if you're a voter, and that is an absolute deadline. And it has to get there by then. It's not the postmark. It's the when it gets there. So be sure to vote early enough that when you throw it in the mail, you can be guaranteed it gets to the PO box by the deadline. It's a hard deadline because then it gets mailed to the where it gets counted.
No, yeah, that's a good point. And the other question somebody asked me the other day is, are the ballots, when they're mailed out, do they include return postage?
Yes, they do. They're business reply. And
Excellent.
that will
Okay.
be the most expensive part of this, by the way.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you can, put on a stamp. But if you don't, it's a business reply envelope and postage paid. We went to a lot of trouble to make the voting as similar to the real voting as possible. And in fact, I consulted with Michael Vu, the Registrar of Voters, on much of this that is part of the process.
That's great. Because I think it worked really well this year. I mean, the official ones, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and let me just say that if it works out well, I plan to take all the credit. But if it doesn't work out well, it's the fault of Scantron and the CDP.
Very wise. That's true. That's why it's always worth employing consultants, I think, for these things, yeah, or third parties. Yeah.
You know,
No, I think that's good. I think, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is on this topic of Georgia. So since there's so many Hispanic voters out, they won't know whether we know how to, if we write postcards or letters, they won't know whether we speak Spanish or not. We just have to get a good letter. So that might be a way of reaching some more Spanish speaking people. Just if we just get something in Spanish and we just copy the letter.
Yeah, I think it's worth working with the different groups that are involved because, I mean, as an outsider, we just don't know that people locally on the ground do know.
Yes.
So I think it's always worth teaming up with some of these organizations that are working with people on the ground to do what they want, right? Not what we might think they want. I think generally that's a good rule.
Anybody have an idea? You know, a lot of these organizations, not the candidates themselves, but other organizations are saying, you know, we'll match this thing 300 or 400%, but how much of that actually goes to the candidates? Do we have any idea, the two candidates?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And I think it all, again, depends. There's a good article in the Nation magazine this month about, when you give money to these various PACs and everything, where's the accounting and the transparency, and where does the money really go, and how's it all determined? And unless you give $1 million check or something, you never get to hear. And even then, you may only get a phone call telling you what you're doing. It's very opaque. And so, but it depends on the organization you're working through. Some are more transparent than others. So I think it varies a lot, Seth, on that. And yeah, I'm just cutting, as you asked, Mike, I'm just cutting those links into the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll put out notes after this meeting with a copy of the chat as well, with all the links in there, so people have those.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's good. I think we have the links in there. I think we've answered everybody's questions.
Mhm.
And if not, Michelle and Mike will direct people to you guys.
In fact, let me put my email address in the chat in case anyone has any questions.
That's cool. That's a good idea. And Michelle, I'll put yours in there as well.
Put my phone number in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's better, right? Yeah. The iPhone number or the other one?
Go ahead and do the iPhone.
Okay. Cool. And anything else for today?
I don't know. It's been so much fun. Why don't we just hang out?
Well, we could, this is how I spend most days, sat in front of a Zoom call, but yeah. There are better things to do. I might go for a bike ride, I think. Something outside.
Outside? Wow.
I know. It's still out there. I see it through the window.
Yeah, I can see it through my window.
Yeah.
Maybe we should the real adamant event planners should maybe give some guidance to people on how to have a new type of Thanksgiving or holiday event that is virtual, but it's still meaningful, because I think we're just telling people don't do it, and we're not giving them, you know, real possibilities for how to connect with their family, which is very important to people. And also, people don't obey rules if they don't have an alternative, you know. So we might want to think about that a little bit.
No, I think that's a good point. And in line with what Mike was just saying, I think Zoom, I read somewhere that for the free accounts, they're removing the 40-minute restriction for Thanksgiving.
Oh, good.
So you can sit with your relatives and discuss, you know, the election all day.
On the other hand, you might want the 40-minute.
It's true. So that's good. So I think we're good. I think, unless anybody else has a question. We're good. Nadia, Brandon, see you. Hi. You good? Okay. Well, with that, then we'll call it a day, and everybody have a good holiday next week. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
John.
John, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for everything.